From the Supreme Court giving the Voting Rights Act a death blow, to people in courtrooms using terms like sweat equity to be new terminology for slavery, one might think that them good old boys never stopped trying to get the South to rise again, have they? Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome for the first time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe only if you like the content. Today's topic of conversation, we're going to be talking about sweat equity, a term that's kind of been around, but it was recently used in a way that made people's eyebrows and antennas sort of rise up. So let's talk about it. So like any other good researcher, I actually wanted to look up what the definition of sweat equity really means before we actually get into the context of what it's actually going to mean in this video. Sweat equity is the non-monetary value or ownership interest built up in a project or business through hard work and effort rather than financial investment. It is commonly used in startups where founders and early employees trade their time and labor for company shares, or in real estate, when a homeowner increases a property's value through do-it-yourself renovations. So the term sweat equity is in the news right now, or at least in the mainstream on social media, because of the unaliving of a Jacksonville rapper by the name of Julio. And if you haven't heard about this case in particular, here's a small breakdown of it. Jacksonville rapper Julio Charles Jones was shot and killed on June 23rd, 2024 in a hotel parking lot in Tampa, Florida, while celebrating his 26th birthday. Investigators determined the ambush was a premeditated, targeted hit stemming from a violent, years-long war between his gang, 6 Block, and rival factions ATK and 1200. The verdict and sentencing: 5 co-defendants were arrested and prosecuted for their roles in the ambush. The 4 gunmen / co-conspirators, Isaiah Chance, 23, Sean Garthright, 20, Rashad Murphy, 32, and Davian Murphy, 29, were convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. On May 15, 2026, the jury spared them the death penalty, instead recommending life in prison without the possibility of parole. The accomplice, Alicia Andrews, 23, Chance's girlfriend, was tried separately and convicted of manslaughter in late 2025 for helping the group track the rapper's location. Her sentencing is currently delayed while her defense petitions for a new trial alleging judicial bias during her initial proceedings.
Based on Mr. Garthright's age, physical abilities, things like that, do you think that the prison would benefit from him in a work capacity if he were sentenced to life without parole?
I say yes. With my experience, not only just in classification, but as former warden and even as a jail administrator, he's someone that's young, he's healthy. In reality, we need that labor, we need that sweat equity, and we will put him out there to work because we do have an aging prison population, jail administration, we have that. So we put these young individuals to work and get some sweat equity out of them since they are young and actually can do the work.
And we talk about life without parole and death row, but for our jurors' education, in Florida, what does a life sentence without parole mean?
A life sentence in the Florida Department of Corrections means from the minute they're brought in, they're assigned an inmate number. He will be assigned an inmate number, and when he dies and leaves in a body bag, he will still have that inmate number. An inmate serving life will never ever get out. There is no parole in the state of Florida, and they're not ever allowed outside the razor wire and the fence of a secure facility.
So the only way that an inmate serving life without parole would leave is when they die by natural causes.
Before I get started, before I say anything addressing the video, I'll just like to say I don't condone nor do I respect anything that these young men have done. I don't call them young brothers because brothers is a term that I have for respect for people. I don't respect nothing that these clowns did. Second, I'm just tired of seeing black folk kill other black folk. We got to come together because we literally got bigger issues at play. They are attacking us. They are attacking us. And right now we need a unified front now more than ever. I know this happened in 2024, but I'm just saying now in general. To address the video, the former warden, who doesn't look like a white man, he made the claim that the prison population is going down, which is a good thing actually, but they need that sweat equity. So what they always do, the people in power that don't want to see people of color get ahead, you send saboteurs in to sabotage the community. Well, they know black people love their music, so what do they promote? They promote destruction. So they sign these rappers that promote this lifestyle because, you know, the school to prison pipeline. Black people love their music. Black people love our culture. Unfortunately, there's parts of our culture that have been corrupted and co-opted for negativity purposes. The culture itself is not negative, but there are elements within it that are. So without going too far into too much detail, the warden said they need that sweat equity. They need that labor. And the country has a history of using young men, old men, specifically black folk, for their free labor. America never got rid of slavery completely. And so when you go out there and you break the law, you're essentially kind of volunteering to be put back into those chains. You forfeit your rights once you commit a crime. And the fact that they're really highlighting and putting a focus on that now, maybe people will think twice about, you know, doing the things that they do out here. But he acknowledged that if the prison populations are declining, that means crime is going down and has been going down for quite some time. So maybe this is a further incentive to maybe not go out there and do what you're going to do. Maybe have some good emotional regularity, emotional intelligence, as they like to say, before you go out there and do what you're going to do, because there's a good chance that you could be used for modern day slavery. This young man is 20 years old, and he is now going to spend the rest of his life behind bars because of something that he did that he didn't think through beforehand. But he had plenty of time beforehand to think things through. There are so many ways that we as a society are failing our youth to a degree. But I also take into account that, and this is going to be unpopular. This is going to be unpopular for some folks. We do have a job to teach the youth. That is a fact, not negating our responsibility. But we also have to take into consideration that we can tell the youth everything under the sun. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to listen, because we all know when people come of age, they start smelling themselves and they start thinking they understand exactly what's going on in the world. And then they only, you know, later on down the line discover they ain't really know shit. So, but this young man has thrown his life away. He was crying and worried about receiving the death penalty. And now he's receiving an even worse fate, in my opinion, because, well, no, they're not gonna lethal inject you. They're gonna work you. They're gonna work you for the next 60 years, or however long you have left. And that's unfortunate. But you went out there and did the crime. Again, I don't want to see none of our people trapped up in this white man system. But I can't feel bad for you when you going out there and you eliminating somebody that look like you just because Y'all are under different factions of these made up ass gangs. And, I'm not going to get into all of that because the simple fact is, again, like I stated, we have much, much bigger problems. We have so many, the amount of people that are coming after us, we should not be at each other's throats right now. We literally have bigger fish to fry.
He's being sentenced for the murder of Julio Fulio, rapper. Check this out. We are past the point of the school to prison pipeline. We are going directly to the school to slavery pipeline. But look at this. 76% of incarcerated individuals, regardless of the crime, say that they were forced to work or face serious consequences within the prison. But look at this. Incarcerated individuals on average produce $2 billion worth of goods and maintain $9 billion worth of products every year.
So they produce $2 billion worth of goods and maintain $9 billion. And all of these major corporations and companies are using that labor. Most of them are not actually blatant enough to just tell you, but they're all using it. Because all of these companies are always looking for what? Ways to save money, ways to cut cost. And so I can easily see someone connecting the dots and saying, they want to start, follow me here, they want to start locking more people up for petty crimes and everything else because these corporate structures, these corporate heavyweights out here, well, they're running out of ways to cut costs, but they want to increase their profits for the shareholders. Kind of see where I'm going with this?
That includes things like cooking, cleaning, laundry work, road work, firefighting, and public maintenance. But did you get this part?
Because we do have an aging prison population, jail administration.
In 1991, people 55 and older made up 3% of the prison population. By 2021, they made up 15%. That's 5 times higher. And among those serving life sentences, 30% were 55 and older. Check this out. Prisoners are counted as part of the population of where they're incarcerated. This inflates the political power and the population of prison towns, while prisoners never reap the benefits. For example, if a town has 500 black inmates, but they have a residential population of 500 people, they can now say that they have a town of 1,000 people. And they can even go further and say that they have a town that's 50% black.
There it is. Now we can see the political spin to it. Now we can see it. This is why I tell people all the time that I don't trust all statistics. I don't trust all the numbers. They say numbers don't lie. That's a lie in and of itself, because people cook books all the time. Numbers can be rearranged. Things can be put in place. People fudge the numbers. People are always finding ways to give themselves an advantage. This is why I don't trust every single statistic. This is why I don't trust everything that I read, because 9 times out of 10, if they're really good at hiding the manipulation, you're not going to find it.
So when election time comes and they get the representation that they want, they could say that the black population has jobs, but they don't vote, keeping out the fact that those black people are in prison and that half their population can't vote. In some rural towns, this is exactly how it goes. Prison populations can make up to 50% of the census population. So prison populations can be used as labor, can be used as population, it can even be used for diversity purposes, but not be treated as citizens with power. But that was the plan all along.
So like I said in an intro, the good old boys is implementing the whole playbook, because that was always the plan. When they said the South shall rise again, for my nerds here, they were basically like the Sith in Star Wars. They fell back and they bided their time for centuries. Just waited until they finally got in the right positions of power to take over the entire galaxy. In this instance, they're taking over the country. Ironic, the Sith have red lightsabers. The Republican Party, well, they're red. You see the correlation, right?
So I had been watching the Julio Fulio case from day one, and to watch the Sean Garthright sentencing was absolutely eye-opening. See, the thing is, a lot of people heard the word sweat equity and they absolutely stopped listening. Let me just say this. The word sweat equity pretty much means hard work, free labor. That's it, that's all. But the part that y'all didn't hear was this. That man said that we're going to give him a life sentence. And when we give him a life sentence, even though he leave this building in a body bag, he still leave with that number. When we give you a life sentence, you never leave this prison. You're always a prisoner for life. What does that mean if this man is dead and gone? It means that he is still going to be a prisoner with that inmate number in the next room, in the next dimension. And I don't think y'all was hearing what the hell he really said. And let me just say this. When Kanye West came out and said that slavery was a choice, he was absolutely right. And a lot of people got mad with him. If you have been watching this child from day one like I have, y'all will know that Sean had a good life. He did not have to do none of that silly shit that he did, but he still went out there and did it. So I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for him. Y'all can say what y'all want, right? Because here's the reality. They could have put him to sleep. You feel what I'm saying? But they didn't. They're allowing him to just go through a rough ass life from here on out. But guess what? His life no longer belongs to him. It now belongs to them. Y'all got to start reading between the lines. And this shit is really deeper than what y'all make it seem like. Trust me.
So I do agree partially with mostly what she's saying. Slavery was a choice. That narrative fits now. I don't want to get into the whole Kanye debate thing because I definitely have a different perspective on that. But in terms of now, slavery is definitely a choice now, because when you go out here and you commit a crime, you know, you may feel you're justified. The law says otherwise. You are essentially forfeiting your rights, volunteering for slavery, modern day slavery. Again, like I said before, I don't condone nothing that these young men, and I have worse words that I want to call them, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just calling them young men. I don't appreciate anybody that's getting unaliving people who look like us, because again, I keep stressing this point. We have much bigger problems at hand. But her signing up to be a slave now, she's kind of spot on with that. Pretty accurate at this point, because how else are you going to describe it? I mean, they don't really, here's the thing about the education system in America. They don't necessarily teach you the law, so you could actually be breaking a law and not realize it, right? Because it's not like they teach us these things in our schools. But you know not to unalive somebody. That's common sense. If your parents did any type of job of raising you, you know the difference between right and wrong, and you know it's wrong. You know. Now, there are certain instances, there are certain circumstances. I understand that. The details between what happened with those gangs, if blood was spilt, then that's a never-ending thing. That's an ongoing thing. That has always been humanity's worst problem, because if blood is ever spilt, it's an eye for an eye. And unfortunately, that cycle never ends, because you get one person, they retaliate. Now you retaliate for their retaliation, and it's a never-ending cycle. So if that was the case, then there's nothing else I can really say about it. But if it was just out of jealousy, if he had actually done nothing to those young men, then yeah, you essentially signed up to sign your rights away. Not smart.
You niggas be around getting more time than y'all supposed to get. No different than my cousin. They were trying to give that nigga 10 years. He didn't want to take that 10 years. Just what they gave him. 4 years, nigga. Just like that nigga. Julio down there in Jacksonville. You heard what the boy said. Sweat equity, nigga. Sweat. That means you gonna work every day, all day, rest of your motherfucking life. You little young niggas out there that wanna be gangsters, wanna be... God damn it, I hope this is an eye-opener for you. They gonna put you out there in them prisons. They gonna put you in them fields. They gonna work your ass all day, every day, and you gonna pay them back in sweat. In sweat, nigga. I told Big U, go on and focus on your case. They gonna give you 90 years. Go on and sign for it, big boy. As long as you ain't getting the you know what I'm saying, the lethal injection and that other shit. Yeah, I told Big U, go on sign for that 90 years. Put time, man. You niggas be getting more time than y'all supposed to get.
And that right there pretty much sums it up in a nutshell. It's bad enough that we as black folks already get a harsher time in this system, where whether the sentencing for these crimes isn't fair, and that's been proven. When you look at exonerations, black people have the highest percentages of exonerations because, well, we've always been targeted in this system. Again, I'm talking about overall. I'm not talking about in this particular case because they've been found guilty. They were apparently caught red-handed. They know what they did. And, you know, the whole thing was orchestrated. But what I'm saying is we already know that the fix is in. We already know that the system is already against us historically and currently, as you can see with the Supreme Court just now, you know, gutting the Voting Rights Act. So if the odds are already stacked against us, we aren't doing ourselves any favors when we go out here and break these white people's laws, because they just trying to shove us back into their cages. Because in a lot of their minds, and obviously it's not all white folks, but in a lot of their minds, we should have never been out of them chains. We should have never been out of them cages. Of course, think about it. Had they had their way and won the uncivil war, I would refuse to call it a civil war. There was nothing civilized about it. Had they won, just think about what today would look like. A lot of people don't take the time to think about that. Racism will continue to exist in this country because people are small-minded. They're not knowledgeable. They refuse to even want to get to know anybody's perspective that is not the same as theirs. I'm saying all this to tie it all back in. These young men went out and committed a crime because they're young and dumb. I mean, some of them were what, 29? I think one of them was 32. So there's really no excuse. There's really no excuse for y'all. But at the end of the day, we got to do better. We got to know better. You know, going out here, committing these crimes. It's always been this. People have been working in these prisons for years. But you got to know now, with the power that they feel that they have, to want to return back to an age where it wasn't necessarily good for people who look like us. That's where they're trying to go back to. This just falls in line with whatever it is that they're trying to do. They're going to push it to the forefront. They're going to push it past our wildest beliefs, our wildest imaginations. Because ultimately, that's always what they wanted, to see us all back up in chains. Again, if you go out there and you break the law, well, you get what's coming to you. And the reason how I know they never really wanted to stop doing that in particular, they didn't just outright abolish it in their constitution. They made an exception, like they do for everything in this country. You want to know why the system is as fucked up as it is? Because they always give in exemptions and loopholes for the people that don't necessarily agree with the progress. It's like you always leaving them a little sliver of hope. You always giving them an out, a little window of opportunity, a little exploit for them to continue doing the fucked up shit that they do while still proclaiming that this is progress. But it's not true progress, because you always leaving a small loophole for your brethren. And that's the truth. So I'm going to actually do a second part to this sweat equity thing, because I'm running a little longer on time than I expected for this particular video. But I think I laid out a good case today about why it's, again, like I always try to do with these videos, it's like why we have to do better as people. Yes, I'm specifically talking to black people, but I'm saying we as a whole, you know, to the white people that aren't racist, to the other groups of people that aren't prejudiced against black folks. I'm speaking to y'all. Like, y'all have to assist us in this fight, because we have done everything in our power to help y'all forever and a day. Now, yes, this particular video talking about sweat equity and these young men being arrested for what they did. Yes, this is an internal problem that black folks will continue to fight and solve. We don't need any outside help on that. Every community, every race of people has their own problems that they try to work through internally. This is just one of ours. But again, I'm going to do a part 2 to this, because there were a lot of things that I didn't necessarily get to. So, yes, if you like the content, make sure you give it a like. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. And we really do got to continue to work together to try to make this country a better place. And, you know, the sooner we do that, the better off we'll all be.